Ever been there? Your team builds exactly what users ask for. You nail all the feature requests, only to watch those same users disappear a week later. You did everything right, but the product just didn't stick. Well, today, we're going to get into exactly why that happens, and more importantly, we'll look at a way to build products that people don't just like, but actually use, day in and day out.
So why do great features get ignored? This is the question, isn't it? It keeps so many product teams up at night. You follow all the best practices, you launch a feature that got amazing reviews in testing, and then nothing. It's got to be one of the most frustrating things in product development, and it really points to a huge misunderstanding of what actually makes people tick.
Okay, let's really dig into this, because this is where it all starts to make sense. Just look at this disconnect. On the one hand, you have users saying, I would use this every day. That's the kind of feedback that gets you pumped. But on the other hand, you have the cold, hard data. That same user is gone in 3 days. Now, it's not because they're lying to you. It's because there's this massive gap between what we intend to do and what we actually do in our messy, real lives.
In this gap, it's got a name. It's the say versus do problem. And honestly, understanding this is the whole ballgame. If your entire product discovery process is only capturing what users say they want, you're building your whole strategy on good intentions, not reality, and that is a surefire recipe for terrible retention.
So here's the bottom line. Retention, the lifeblood of any product. It has almost nothing to do with that initial wow moment or what a user thinks they'll do. It is 100% a measure of lived, repeated, real-world behavior. It's about becoming a habit, a part of someone's actual daily routine.
Now, let's be super clear here. User interviews are not bad. They're incredibly valuable for understanding what people think they need. But that's also their biggest weakness. They're designed to capture intentions, which are usually discussed in a total vacuum, completely separate from real life.
Think about it, right? An interview is a controlled, clean environment. You're asking someone to predict the future or to perfectly remember the past. And yeah, you'll get a ton of great feature ideas that way, but you're going to miss the messy, subconscious, chaotic reality of how people actually get stuff done.
So if interviews give us intentions, how in the world do we uncover actual behavior? Well, this is where we need a completely different approach. It's time to stop just asking and start watching. What's so powerful about this is that it's all about the user's actual environment. You're not bringing them into a sterile lab. You're going to them, to their desk, to their home, and you're just observing. This is how you find the gold, the needs they have that they can't even put into words. And this gets to the very heart of retention. People don't leave your product because you're missing one more feature. They leave because it doesn't slot into their existing habits. It creates friction. It feels like work. It doesn't flow with how they already operate.
The second you step out of that interview room and into the wild, you start seeing these amazing patterns that would never come up in a conversation. So let's break down 3 of the big ones you'll find.
Okay, first up is the invisible workflow. These are all the little hacks, the shortcuts, the workarounds that people do without even thinking about it. It's so automatic they can't even tell you they're doing it. To them, it's just how work gets done.
Check out this perfect example. A design team swore up and down they needed some new, super sophisticated collaboration tool. But when researchers actually watched them, their real workflow was just taking screenshots, scribbling on them in Microsoft Teams, and then hopping on a quick call. Every fancy new tool failed because it tried to replace this simple, fast rhythm instead of just making it better.
All right, the second pattern is something called context collapse. Here's the deal. In an interview, the user's problem sounds so clean and important. But in reality, your product is just one little thing fighting for attention in a complete hurricane of digital noise.
I mean, just think about your own screen right now. Your app isn't competing with other apps. It's competing with Slack notifications, urgent emails, a dozen browser tabs, and a text from a friend. The products that stick are the ones that fit into that juggling act and actually make it easier, not just another thing to manage.
And finally, number 3, the emotional layer. This one's subtle, but it is so powerful. It's the real reason we stick with certain tools even when other ones are supposedly better. It all comes down to how the product makes us feel.
Look, we all want to use tools that make us feel competent and in control. The moment a product makes you feel a little bit dumb or confused, you're probably going to ditch it. The products with the best retention are the ones that feel like an extension of your own brain. They just feel right.
So at this point, you might be thinking, okay,
This sounds amazing, but who on earth has time for months of ethnographic research? And that is a totally fair question. But here's the good news. This doesn't have to be some huge academic exercise. You could make it lightweight and practical.
Here's a super simple loop to try. 1. Immersion. Before you ask a single question, just watch. Seriously, 1 hour of shadowing a user can reveal more than 5 interviews. 2. When you do talk to them, focus on what they did in the past, not what they might do in the future. And 3. Validation. When you test a prototype, don't just look for that initial wow. Look for signs that it could actually fit into their daily grind.
And these questions right here, these are absolute gold. Instead of asking a hypothetical like, would you use this, you ask, can you just show me how you solved this last week? It completely changes the conversation from speculation to reality. It gives you the real context you need.
So what's the big takeaway here? What's the ultimate goal? It's really about a fundamental mindset shift. We need to stop designing for an imaginary user in a perfect world and start designing for a real person in their messy, complex, and habit-filled reality.
And if you need a reminder of the stakes, just look at this number, 15%. That was the 30-day retention for a real product that users raved about in focus groups. It's a brutal reminder that praise doesn't pay the bills, only lived behavior does.
So if we boil it all down, it comes to this simple distinction. User interviews are fantastic for understanding what users say, but observation, that's how you uncover how users actually live. And if you're trying to build a product that lasts, that second part is everything.
If you remember just one single thing from this explainer, make it this. Design for lived behavior, not imagined behavior. Stop building for the user in your head and start building for the real, complex, habit-driven person who actually exists. That is the real secret to building products that people just can't live without.
And that leaves us with one last question to take back to your own team. Take a hard look at how you work. Are you designing for what your users say they want, or are you designing for how they actually live? Because the answer to that question could make all the difference.